fantastic.
Right, introducing on my show now. It's a pleasure to interview a professional recording artist. You are a friend of the show as well. We got Daniel James on my radio show and podcast to speak to me about his brand new festive Christmas combo, Silent Night, Oh Holy Night, which has been given a WARD gospel makeover as well. But before we get into that, I just wanted to say, how is life treating you? And yeah, where are you at the world right now?
Well, I've just been, it's the recording studio because I'm recording an album for next year, and I've got three new singles ready for next year. I've been working with Ward on a track called Hands Up. I've written a song called Crazy, Makes You Feel So Good, and I've worked with Al Steele from the Corgis on a really big, barnstorming, heartbreaking ballad called Wrap Your Arms Around Me. So I'm sitting here, I've got a little break from the studio. I've just been doing some backing vocals, and I've got my very own Daniel James mug with a touch of honey in for my throat.
Great. Are you a fan of herbal tea then, are you?
Oh, no, no, no. I don't drink the herbal tea. This is Yorkshire tea.
Oh, do you find it's good for your voice as well, just out of interest?
First thing on the morning, I only have hot water. But from 11 o'clock onwards, it's tea and good, strong and milky herbal tea. To be honest, I need a cow in the garden, really. I drink that much tea.
Good for you. And you were originally in a boy band duo in the late 80s, early 90s, predominantly. This year's been a milestone for you, 35 years. And what's it been like, meeting people who tell you about those memories of seeing you on the front page of pop magazines like Smash Hits?
Do you know what? It's been really lovely. We're now in December, and I started this campaign in January. I had a single out called Promises in the spring. And wherever I've gone, I've had people coming up to me saying, "Oh, I used to play you on my mobile disco," or "I was at school dancing to instant replay," or "We saw you on Top of the Pops." And I had somebody that came up to me that when we did This Morning, it was then set in Liverpool on the dock. And we actually did it on the weather map. And this guy came up to me and he said, "You probably don't remember me." He said, "But I rode you out to the weather map on This Morning." So it's really lovely because I know it sounds strange because we only had a couple of hits in this country. We had lots more abroad. I mean, we were number one in Japan and Sting was number two, Madonna was number three. But it's amazing how many people we seem to have hit a sweet spot in people's memories, and people have happy memories of the group's records. So this year's been fabulous, and it's nice to end the year with a kind of big bell, big
Yeah.
jingle bell.
And you featured on the Heritage chart as well. How was
Well,
that?
I think this might be my seventh hit. I had a number one with Do You Remember Me? And I've had Set Your Spirit Free. I've had Don't Want to Lose That Girl. I've had lots and lots of tracks. And as I say, at the moment, I'm in the top five of the Heritage chart. Now, it would be fabulous to get to number one for Christmas. We've still got time. So if any of your listeners would like to hear the song, they can go to, in fact, they can go here. Look at this. I've
Okie
got my
dokie.
very own QR code. Can you see that? Yeah. So if people want to scan my QR code and go to my website, www.thedanieljames.com, the video for the gospel, there's a new fabulous gospel mix. And do you know what? Even if I wasn't singing it, it sends a shiver down your spine. It's really lovely. We're in the top five of the Heritage chart. So if people go to my website, the very top of the page, there's a little red button. And if they press that, takes them to the Heritage chart and they can give me their vote. It would be lovely to get number one for Christmas. I mean, top three would be fabulous. So, and while they're on the website, they can take a look at the merch. We've got the Silent Night or Holy Night t-shirt. We've got the jingle balls for the Christmas tree. We've got also the bobble hats, male, female, or if you're fluid, you've got that. And we've got the tote bag. Here we go for you doing your shopping. And of course, we've got the mugs. Because nowadays, I'm going to be really honest with our viewers and our listeners today. No matter what you do on Spotify, there's about 10 acts in the world who actually make money from releasing singles nowadays. The Weekend, the big acts, I mean enormous acts, even the Stones, Paul McCartney, even Michael Jackson, and though he's dead. There's about 10 acts, and the rest of us, all the way down, the only way you make money as a musical artist nowadays is by writing your material, by touring live, or with merch. And so when people say, "Oh, he's a bit brash plugging his merch," the truth of the matter is, you used to, when we were in Yale, our first week when we were released, we sold something like 280,000 in 5 days. And I wrote the B-side to that, Poison Arrow. And so consequently, the more sales we added up, and when we sold loads abroad, and as I say, number one in Japan, in those days, you got the same money, the same residuals as the A side. So if your A side sold, say, 500,000, you got the same money as the writer of the, like Dan Hartman wrote Instant Replay. Well, that doesn't happen anymore now because you don't have B sides. And as I say, with Spotify, you get something like 0.5p or zero point 0.5, cent or whatever. So most artists now get out on the road and also have merch.
Yeah, 100%. I like your bobble hats. It would suit my shiny head.
Well, do you know what? It would keep your lovely head warm,
It would.
you know?
Lovely.
I wish you were nearer. We'd pop round with one. And of course, we've
That's
got t-shirts with promises on, set your spirit free. We've got a whole array we've got hoodies, for the winter. So, as I say,
yeah.
www.thedanieljames.com. Take a look.
And your Silent Night, Oh Holy Night, that's an interesting combination. How did you come up with the idea to blend those two together?
I was cycling. I was cycling to the gym. Actually, I could do with another hour in the gym, but I was cycling to the gym, and this big bus pulled alongside me, and it had a poster for Silent Night beds. And I know this is crazy. It made me think of the song. So I'm cycling to the gym, and it's July or something, and I'm going Silent Night. And then I suddenly remembered that when I was at school, I was probably about 10 or 11. I played Joseph in the Nativity. Now, obviously, if you know the Nativity story, really, it's not Joseph in his Technicolor Dreamcoat, it's the Nativity. Well, if you think about it, Joseph doesn't really have much to do. And all through rehearsals, we were in the school hall, which doubled as the gym. So you had the ropes coming down the wall and the wood floors. And the headmistress and the teacher were staring at me, and I thought, oh, I've done something wrong. All I've done is stand here. And anyway, the teacher came over and she said, "Listen, Daniel, you can't stand there for the whole of the play. So we're going to give you a song." And they gave me "Oh Holy Night," which I'd actually only sang, when you sing them at school. And I'd sang it a couple of times. Anyway, we did the rehearsals, and then the big night came and the school hall was chocker. Everyone was in their winter coats. My mum was in the third row, and I was looking around thinking, "Where's my dad?" And then there was just a door opened at the back and a clink of light, and I can remember it as if it was yesterday because it was really dark, and this light came in. Typical of my dad, he was late for his own funeral, bless him. And he stepped in, and I thought, "My dad's here. I can relax." And then just then the piano started, and I belted out "Oh Holy Night," and there's a really big note, Night Divine. And I hit this big note and everyone cheered and clapped. And I thought, wow, this is nice. Who gets cheered and clapped at school? It's amazing. So I saw the Silent Night bed poster. I cycled to the gym, thought about the nativity. Well, I didn't bother going on the treadmill, didn't bother picking any weights up. I found a little room at the back of the gym, said, "Can I just have it for an hour?" And I found a way of arranging both hymns because they're slightly in different keys. So I found a way of merging the two songs, and then I sang it into my phone. And I rang a guy up called Stuart Epps. And Stuart Epps, when he was 16, he started working for Rocket Records, which was John Reid and Elton John and Bernie Taupin. And he then toured the world with Elton John for years, working with him. And he's produced Oasis, Robbie Williams, Chris Rea. I think Chris is still driving home for Christmas. And I rang Stuart up and I sent him on a WhatsApp what I'd done. And within 5 days, I was down in his studio and we got a guy called Paul Hirsch and we put the most beautiful arrangement together. And then later on, I started working with two guys called Ward, Ward, Joe Ward and his dad, Clyde. I was in the summer, I was on the fifth anniversary Heritage Chart Roadshow in Brighton. I just performed. I do like a 45-minute set now. I do all the Yale hits. I do some 80s and 90s bangers like Love Is in the Air. I do True. I do Wherever I Lay My Hat. So it's a real memory for people from the 80s and 90s. And I came off stage and this guy tapped me on the shoulder. He said, "Hi, my name's Joe Ward." And it triggered a little memory. And he said, "You know my dad?" And I said, "Is your dad Clyde Ward?" And he said, "Yeah." I said, "I worked with your dad years ago." He said, "I know." He said, "He sends you his love." Anyway, Joe and I went for a cup of tea and they'd just written and produced the Right Said Fred single Wonder Bar. And they write for people all over the world award and they produce them. Within a week, I went down to near the New Forest and I got there at 1 o'clock. We had a cup of tea. We went upstairs to the studio and I'd had an idea in my head on the way down there. So I said, put some beats on. It was 1:30 when we started. By 5:15, we'd finished the song. I'd done the vocal, we'd done the beats, and do you know what? It's real. It's nothing like I've done before. It's really edgy. It's really quick, and I've played it to some people, and it's like they say, "Oh, that could be like Dua Lipa or someone like that." So I worked with them, and when I'd finished, they said, "What are you doing for Christmas?" I played them Silent Night, Oh Holy Night. And I said, "But what I'd really love is a gospel mix." And I told them the bits that I, wanted in there. Do you know what? 2 weeks went by. They sent me this most gorgeous mix. And that's how I am where I am now with the Ward
Yeah.
mix.
Well, that's out now, and you've been touring like the country, making, several like switch on appearances and meeting people. Do you still, I think I saw a video of you in Newcastle as well, up there.
Yeah, I've been Bognor Regis, Dorking, Addlestone. I mean, Newcastle. I mean, everywhere. I've done light switching on ceremonies all over the place, and it's great because there's thousands of people there. I do, sometimes I do Silent Night for Holy Night first, or we leave that till the end, just before the lights. And I get to do my set, and loads of people, as I say, come up to me and they're like, "Oh, we remember you in Yale, and it's great that you're writing new stuff." What's even better is when I did Hands Up at like Addlestone, it was just rows of teenagers and kids, and they were going crazy. And when I did it, I thought, Hands Up, it's definitely going to go out next year as a single because it just hit the spot. All these kids were loving it. So I'm excited. I mean, this has been a great year. It's been the 35th anniversary, but I've got three absolute bangers for next year, and I'm really excited.
Well, we look forward to that as well. And one final question I wanted to ask was you also did a dab hand in acting, which maybe I can get you on to talk about another time, but you also lived in New York as well. What was that like living in New York during this time of year?
Do you know what? It was actually snowing. I lived there when I first got there. I got off the plane. It was when Yell finished, and I needed to get away. And we'd recorded in LA, but we'd never released in America. So I got to New York, and I was on my own. Nobody knew who I was, and I ended up the first night I was there. I met a producer of a play and a writer. I ended up in a play in New York called the Feast of Alexander, and I spent the whole. I think I got there in December, and I was there nearly a year for the first trip I was there. And as I say, I ended up walking New York. I lived in Chelsea, and the rehearsals were way uptown, midtown. And I'd walk through Hell's Kitchen, and I mean, it's like a movie set, New York. I don't know whether you've been, but you get off the plane, you go across that bridge, and you see the buildings. It's like being in a movie, just being in a taxi. So to live there and work there and be in a play there, I would just say to anybody, if you can get a visit into New York, it's such an exciting city. And the summer's the only thing I'll say is the summer is sweltering hot. I have to remember being there in August. I think I lost about 3 stone walking up 8th Avenue every day. And if you go in the winter, you're guaranteed snow.
Well, Daniel James, thank you for joining me. It was a pleasure. Thanks for chatting about, your latest single and some anecdotes as well. And got time just to plug your new single on my radio show, Daniel James on Today's Show. It's been a delight.
Just to say, if anybody's in Lancashire, just quickly, I am performing at St James's Church in Briarcliff near Burnley on Christmas Eve at 11:30. It's midnight mass, and I'm performing Silent Night, Oh Holy Night. If anyone would like to come along.
Thank you very much. Daniel James on Today's Show.